Welcome to the Strategy Sherpa Show, a series of organic discussions between hosts David Chavez and a variety of notable business leaders centered around their most significant failures and how they handled those challenges, so listeners can learn from their most teachable moments and apply the lessons to their organizations. Now, here's your host, David Chavez.
Hey everyone, this is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and we have a really special guest here today. But before we get to the guest, let's take a few moments. Last week, time's flying by. Warren Sager and I did a workshop in San Diego. It was sold out. We had quite a few there, and for those of you who are there and are listening right now, what a great workshop it was. We had 5 different companies in the room. We had about 2 to 3 people from each company, and we had some really robust conversations about our businesses, how we were doing with them, how we needed to think about strategy differently. So it was a really great workshop. The next one we're doing is in Denver on September 17th. That's Ted Servata and I. So we'd love for you to come and join us. And then Warren's going to be doing a webinar, not this week, not next week, the week after. He's going to be talking about peak performance in coaching. And Neel, I met you through Warren. So you and Warren go back a little bit. Welcome, Neel, to the show.
It's great to be here, David.
Yeah. So share everyone a little bit about what you do, Neel, and then we'll talk a little bit about Warren and how you met him.
Sure. I own a software development company called Susco Solutions. We focus on developing claims management software for the insurance space. We actually develop enterprise software across all sectors. But over the past 5-6 years, we've gotten very deep around claims management. We are about 35 of us all over the country, remote company, all working U.S. Central Standard Time though. And we really enjoy unleashing human potential for the software we build. We also are heavy into human development at work, whether it's their personal and professional development. And then what we like to do with some of our excess profits is invest in charities that help build people up to better achieve the American dream. So capacity building, things like that.
Okay, and I love how you're talking about giving back a little bit to the community. So what you're saying is you're giving back a little bit to the community through some of the profit that you have from the organization and helping other people start businesses then.
Well, no. So I'm 47 now, but when I was 39, I went through this very transformative personal experience, midlife crisis type thing. And I discovered that how I learned a lot about human development, about getting rid of limiting beliefs, habit formation, things like that. And so once that in that experience, it kind of changed some of the learning modalities you'd use at Susco. And since then, we had a skyrocketing growth. And so what I specifically do is when we find organizations that are helping people who are disadvantaged, I'll give you a good example.
Yeah.
So Son of a Saint is an organization in New Orleans, and what they do is they mentor fatherless boys between the ages of like 10 and 17, and which they provide them male role models and other services, right? Which increases the probability of them growing into adults that achieve the American dream as opposed to, struggling. And so what I guess you could say it's not really, it's more of an intervention at a younger age, if that makes sense.
Okay, so helping kids without a father, boys primarily, and then helping them learn a little bit about life and business.
Right. Yeah, that'd be one example. So one example could be these fatherless boys. Another organization we support is Junior Achievement, which I'm sure you're aware of. Teaching financial literacy. It's like, how do you build people up so they have the tools so that they can stand on their own 2 feet as adults, whether it's as an entrepreneur or a successful employee, whatever it is,
Yeah, so you're going back to the lesson in the Bible where you're teaching people how to fish instead of giving them the fish.
Right, but you got to teach them in time. Yeah. If you look, I can tell you from personal experience, we've mentored and developed a lot of people, and helping somebody unblock themselves who's 20 something is a lot harder, or 30 something is a lot harder than if you can help them between that ages of 10 and 20,
Yeah. I have a little joke that I always say that in our 20s, we think we know everything. In our 30s, we start to realize we don't know everything. In our 40s, we really start to become experts at our jobs. And in the 50s, we start to share what we've learned with everyone. So
yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah.
so it's sort of a general thing. And then I say that kids lose their brain sometime between 11 and 13, and they usually get it back around anywhere from 20 to 24, somewhere in there. So
yeah, it sounds about right. I remember my wife and I are we're struggling a lot with our teenage daughter. And then I read a book called something about the neurology of the teenage brain. And they literally do go crazy. Yeah, it's actually a biological, it's not even their fault. Yeah, it's crazy. Because they're just, they're developmental.
It's like puberty. They are going through puberty, but there's all these hormones changing in their body, and they really have no control over all this wild, crazy swings that they go through in time. So it's really interesting when you think about it. So let's talk a little bit about your business. So your business, what type of clients are you working with primarily?
So nowadays, generally mid market size businesses, generally B2B. We're founded in 2006 with a focus on internal business software. We were first movers on mobile within Louisiana in 2010. And then in 2014, we said, you know what, we're only going to focus on developing internal business software and mobile workforce apps on the Microsoft stack for mid-market enterprises. And that really helped. And then in 2019, we said, okay, even though we're serving industries across all sectors, we're going to only do outbound marketing in like the insurance space around, and claims management mainly. And so if you imagine you have the insurance carrier, right? So an insurance carrier, Allstate, Liberty Mutual, et cetera, when there's a claim, and they assign the claim, there are a lot of vendors they have to work with. So a carrier will have to work with an adjusting firm. They'll have to work with a restoration firm to do the repair. They'll have to work with a temporary housing firm, contents, et cetera. And so while there's a lot of, it's a crowded space to build software for the carrier, there's a lot of opportunity for these insurance services companies to build software to help their companies work better.
Yeah. So you were doing general software to all of business at one time. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. So it's kind of like many entrepreneurs, like whoever came in the door who had a need that we could do, we would just do,
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were building custom software for them. And then in 2019, you discovered your core customer, which is the insurance.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of serendipity there. So in 2014, we had we really kind of shook up the leadership team on my company. And so we ended up having 3 people come from that sector, 2, a project manager and 2 architects. And so while we didn't immediately start doing outbound marketing there, once we fixed our internal processes, I would say we then said, okay, well, let's see if we can pursue these markets since we have so much experience in that space. And so, yeah.
Okay. So you said in that you fixed your processes. What was the matter with your processes?
So, wow, there's a lot there. So we've been a consulting firm since we started. So very typically when you're a consulting firm, you're all about trying to get to the solution as quickly as possible, especially when you're working with smaller businesses. And as we were moving more and more upmarket in the size of the businesses that we're working with, we found that we needed a little more discipline, like the discipline an internal team would have. And so a lot of the processes, excuse me, a lot of the process fixes we were doing were more around the software development lifecycle, kind of boring, the right way to do the workflow technically, if you will.
Right.
to kind of assure high quality, et cetera. And that's some of the expertise that these guys brought in because they had come from the internal world, from being in a big company internally.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe before then it was a little wild and adventurous, or in the firm, the way that you developed the software and you just created some consistency with these processes and everything.
I would say so. Yes, that's a fair statement. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is such a common problem in businesses. I know you're in a group called EO, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you've been involved with that for quite a while because that's how you met Warren, one of our coaches. So you and Warren are friends. You've been friends for quite a while, from what I understand.
Oh, yeah. We were floor mates for 7 years, more plus, I think. Yeah. Very long time.
Yeah. And he told me, he said, hey, you have to talk to Neel sometime. And then you and I ended up at an event together with EO in Napa and got to meet each other and drink a little wine together. So
yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a great event. And then, but then meeting you, I found it fairly fascinating what you're doing. And then you're talking about your processes right now. I know this isn't your biggest challenge, but this is one of those things that happens to our company is that as we start to scale, we have to understand that the processes that worked when a few people were there are much different when you have 5, 6, 7 people working on the same things that are, you're doing the same work that you always been doing, but now we have other people doing it and we have to create some consistency across that. Is that how you saw it too?
Yeah, absolutely. But the processes you have at 7 are very different than 40 people, right?
Yeah. And again, you're probably going to have to do them again soon and again, because these things just keep on cropping up. And we talk about this quite a bit in our workshops, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs think that they did the processes one time and that was good enough. So you've been in this space. How do you feel about your business? Like, where are you planning on taking your company?
Well, no, so we're in a good place. We've got really great relationships with our enterprise clients we're doing the project work for. In addition, we've developed a rocket claims for small insurance adjusting firms. And that we've launched that product. So we're very excited about that. Yeah. So I think I'm very excited about where we are. We've got a strong niche, with a lot of experience. It's atypical for a insurance firm to come to a company and not have to explain the business concepts. We just get them.
Yeah.
Because we have so much expertise there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. And do you have like a mission statement or a purpose statement for your company?
Yeah. So we believe we want to unleash human potential with enterprise software. And so that's what we believe in doing. Yeah. That's
so.
Actually.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. What?
No.
Well, it's actually been revised to build systems which unleash human potential is the overall purpose. The way we do that for our clients is we unleash human potential with enterprise software. The way we do that for our employees is we help build them up personally and professionally. And the way we do that for the community is through the programs that we support that help disadvantaged individuals achieve the American dream.
All right. Very good. Hey, Neel Sus, thank you for being here today. We're going to take a little break and we're going to come back and then we're going to talk about one of your biggest challenges you've had growing this company, because you've had it for quite a while now and it's doing well. And you probably had some challenges along the 18-year journey that you're on. So let's come back and talk a little bit. Take a break. This is Strategy Sherpa Show. We'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey everyone, this is David Chavez. We're back with Neel Sus, and we are talking about his business, Susco. Is that how you say it, Susco?
Yes, sir.
All right. And very cool business all the way around. We learned a little bit about it. He developed software for businesses, but he focuses on the insurance companies out there. And so that's where his focus is and attention, but he does pretty much work with small businesses, helping them with any software solution. Is that correct, Neel?
Yeah, I'd say mainly mid-market, so we're looking for, companies that have a, budget 100,000 a year or so more
Okay.
for software development.
Of $100,000 a year or more for software development.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say
Okay.
that'd be a reasonable cutoff. Yeah.
Yeah. So most, all right, that's good. So let's talk a little bit about your business. So you and I are both, well, you're part of a group called EO, and I am also. I'm in the Austin chapter. You're in the Louisiana chapter or the New Orleans chapter?
Well, I'm both the Louisiana chapter and the EO Central Bridge called Next chapter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where I met you, is through the Central Bridge chapter.
Correct.
And then so what role has EO done for you in your business?
Well, it's an interesting story. I'm actually the first accelerator ever. So back in the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, in August 29th of 2006, when I applied. And so I was the first person to join the accelerator program. And then I was there until 2010 and until I graduated to EO. Yeah. And so obviously it's been very impactful to me. It helped me get out of a bad business partnership faster than I would have in 2000, I guess, 12. It helped me invent what I would consider a world-class filtering system for the way we hire people. We have some very robust testing tools we use. I discovered from my former mates. It helped me invent. We have a pretty robust employee engagement program, which involves a thing we have called the employee check-in, where we actually every month the leader has to formally check in with the employee to see how is the company doing. And so that, I think, has led to some pretty amazing results in terms of employee satisfaction and productivity. And so, yeah, I owe a lot to EO for sure.
That's great. That's great. I love that you said that. So what we do on this show is we talk to business owners and senior leaders about decisions they made that, we never intend for our decisions to go wrong, but some of them do. We can't really escape that. That's part of our game. And what we're trying to do is have conversations with business leaders to help other entrepreneurs who are trying to grow their company to understand that they're not all alone when they're out there making those mistakes that most of us make. And you came up with one to that when we do the show, we send out a little thing to get you thinking. And you came back and you talked a little bit about the period of time from 2011 to 2016. So you said you were lean and mean at about 9 to 12 people, but the margins are low and the stress was high. And then, so what happened?
Well, I just think that the pattern becomes going into hero mode too often and just doing the work. And so, well, just to zoom out for a little bit, I think it's very important to one thing that's helped me a lot is understanding personality, because you understand how your strengths can become your weaknesses. Okay. So for example, if anyone's familiar with the Big Five model of personality, I'm highly industrious and highly compassionate, and not personality wise, but also I'm also have a high IQ. And why am I telling you this? It's not to brag. It's that these three things, it's knowing these things, these are strengths and weaknesses. So for example, because I'm highly industrious, I don't mind working hard. And because I'm highly compassionate, I don't want to fire people. And because of a high IQ, I can work very quickly, And so what would happen would be instead of, when we would fall behind, instead of making a systemic change, like having the difficult conversation and putting somebody on a PIP and getting rid of them, I would hero mode it and kind of thinking, okay, well, maybe next time they won't have the same issue next, and they won't have the same problem. And this problem occurred again and again and again until really, hiring those people I told you about in 15 was really helpful in revealing these blind spots, because one of the guys I hired, John, who's our chief architect, was like some of our people suck. We have to get rid of them like now. And so just total blind spot because of that.
Okay, so I like the way you're talking about this. So you because we teach very similarly that our weakness is are connected to our strengths. So
Absolutely.
what you're saying is because you gave 3 things that you are. Can you say them real quick again?
Yeah, so the personality side, right? I'm aware. I'm highly industrious, which is a subset of conscientiousness in the Big Five model. And anyone, in case anyone wants to Google the Ocean model or the Big Five model, so highly industrious. So I don't mind working hard. Comes naturally to me, right?
Okay.
So that's one. 2, there's another trait called agreeableness, which actually has 2 subcomponents in this model: politeness, which I'm low on, but compassion, which I'm high on. And so I'm very high in compassion, right? And so that's the personality side traits that are relevant here. Actually, all 5 are important too. So there's another one called neuroticism, which is how strong your negative emotion systems are. I'm low in neuroticism, which can be very good, but however, if somebody keeps screwing up and it's not bothering you enough, it can be bad. And so that's that aspect of it. And that's personality. On the other hand, understanding how fast your brain works. I know, my cognitive skills are very high, right? So the accuracy and speed with which I do work. So
what you're saying then is those are your strengths, but they're also your weaknesses too. And let's just take the cognitive ability, because you apologize for that when you were sharing it with everyone. And there's nothing to really apologize about, because you process information very quickly, which probably scares the hell out of the people around you sometimes.
It does. Yes, that's true.
Right?
Yeah, that can be a problem. That can also, it can lead to, it can definitely lead to a lot of problems. One, it's very easy to go in hero mode when you understand something faster. It's very easy to under-explain something because you just understand it very deeply. And it can be easy to become impatient with people. Yeah, I mean, it's got pros and cons. I mean, definitely. And so, but it's really it's this combination of, if you're really smart and you work quickly. What?
Okay, keep going. And you work.
I was going to say, like, if you know, there are a lot of people like this who are entrepreneurs. If you're really smart, you love working hard, you work very quickly, and if you have this, and this is the more atypical thing, but if you happen behind compassion, you may find yourself doing other people's jobs because it's just easier than having a hard conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
I love the way you're saying this, because a lot of people, they'll look at these personality profiles. We use DISC and we use attribute index to do the 2 things you're talking about, but we use another one also, which is your motivations. But it sounds like you're encompassing all these things, and you used a different model, but it got you to the same place where you started to understand that how fast you processed information and how you had to slow down a little bit. It can be a negative for you if you're not using the asset correctly, right? Your asset is you process information quickly. Your liability to that asset is sometimes you assume people are on the same level you're on when they're 10 steps behind you, and you may get a little frustrated that they're not up with you.
Right.
Is that okay? So these things are very important. So this is going on in your company. You bring some others in that so you don't have awareness of these things that we're talking about right now. You're rescuing people. We call it rescuing, right? You call it playing the hero, but you have rescuing behaviors where you're not holding people accountable. You're just doing it yourself.
Correct.
Okay. And that's causing you to have people in your company that aren't as productive as you need them to be doing their job. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah. Well, yeah, basically that's making it to where there are people that should have been put in a pit and fired, who are developers, and that weren't. Yeah. And you
mentioned the guy's name. What was his name again?
So John's my chief architect, and he's the one who came in as like, hey, Neil, these guys are terrible. We need to get rid of them. Yeah.
So, and I love his candidness, because he just comes in
He's
like,
super blunt.
because you probably had some pretty high objectives for him, and he's going, hey, if I got to get these done, I have to have the right people to get these done. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's great. But it was the catalyst of a change that started in your company, which launched it to where it's at today. Is that fair too?
Yeah, that it was definitely one of them. Yeah, that it was that and the whole kind of this kind of midlife personal crisis I had in 2016. They kind of worked together, but yeah.
Okay. And so you made a decision that you weren't going to do these things anymore because you had become complacent and allowed these things to happen. When you started bringing on better people, they helped you see what you probably already felt inside, like people aren't really pulling their weight, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what happened. And when we started, and it was really interesting because we didn't really have to fire many people because John just started holding them to a higher standard, and they'd self-select out.
Yeah, and I love that you said that, because when you talked about it originally, it sounded a little harsh, but I know you and I know your reputation, and you're not known for being too harsh. You're known for like that part of it is that you're not being harsh because you got that compassion in you, but working people through the process and allowing them the opportunity to either improve themselves or leave, right? So you sort of help them understand that if they couldn't do the job, that this probably isn't the best place for them to work. So really, you set them free to go find their freedom of what they could excel at, right?
That's exactly right.
Okay. And a lot of business owners get mixed up with this. They keep people that aren't productive, and you may be hurting the person far more than you realize. And it sounds like you didn't make that mistake.
You're right. In the long term, you are. Right.
Yep. But you were making that mistake, and then these other great people came in and helped you understand what you were doing, which started this whole catalyst and movement for you.
Exactly.
All right, that's great. Well, hey, we got to take a break again, but I want to come back on the other side and talk about some of the things that happened in your company after you made this realization and started going through this change process, because this problem you hit on is such a common problem I run into, but not often is talked about with people. So I love that you brought this up. I think this is hugely valuable for the listeners out there. So this is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We'll be right back after this message with Neel Sus, and we're going to talk to him a little bit more about what he did to make his business start to take off again. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey, everyone. This is David Chavez, and we're sitting here with Neel Sus, and he's really bringing up a huge problem in a lot of small businesses that are trying to grow to the mid-stage. And it sounds like he got stuck just like I did in my CPA firm, and he had to go through some transformation of himself and really learn about himself. And that's what he used some profiles. And you used which one again, Neel? Which one did you use?
So we do is so the overall model is called the Big Five.
No,
model.
just Big Five model. That was what I was looking for. And then you took that Big Five model and then you brought it into your company. I just want to bring everybody back where we were. And then you started to have to work with the individuals. Some of them ended up leaving, which caused you to probably have to hire a lot of people. Talk about what you did in that area to get the right people in the company.
Right. So what we did was we changed our hiring process to where we would not interview people until they took our personality test and our cognitive aptitude test, essentially IQ test. And if you didn't meet certain qualifications on the aptitude test, we wouldn't interview. And on the personality test, if you scored low in certain areas, we'd still interview you, but we would do a lot of behavioral based interviewing questions. So for example, people who are high in neuroticism don't tend to thrive at Susco, because if you're high in neuroticism, it means that your negative emotion systems run amok. And so, hard work can be hard. And so we'll ask people, it says, hey, your personality profile says you don't handle stress well. Can you tell us about a time when you were very stressed out and how you handled your stress? Because even if you have a high score in a certain trait, you can still, or a low score in a different trait, you can still manage it if you have the right life skills, and you can ask for that. But once we started, making sure that we wanted extroverts in sales, we wanted people with who are highly industrious doing the work, and we wanted people who were really smart. Once we started doing the testing, plus we'd actually do live code exams, our success rate in hiring went through the roof.
So you started doing a lot of testing to really sure that the people have the right behavior for the position, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, so you think about it in three variables. So the CCAT, is the raw aptitude. So do they have the horsepower for the role? The personality test is, do they have the attitude for the role? And the actual code exam is like, do you have the achievement for the role? So yes, all three components, I think.
Okay. And so you're using these components to really help you understand who this person is before you bring them in. And how did that help you?
I mean, we went from having, traditionally maybe 1 out of 4 people were a great hire to 3 out of 4.
Okay. And one of our big, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, I was going to say, like, if you look at, we even instituted like a very, very, very aggressive kind of like 90-day screen process, where even after they're hired, we really make sure that they're fitting in, so that if they're not a good fit, we know within a couple months, and we let them go so they can find a better place to go quickly. So I mean, I would say, like, our attrition is really low now for technology. It's pretty low. I mean, we just got Inc. best place to work, so they're happy. I'll tell you that much. Yeah.
But okay. So you won the best place to work award for where?
So basically, Inc. magazine has a national competition, of course, for growth. That's 5,000 companies, but they have a different competition for best place to work. So all over the nation, they pick roughly 500 or 600 companies to honor based on benefits, salaries, and most importantly, surveys employees fill out.
Yeah, that's great. We have a couple of clients that won that a couple of years in a row. Sounds like you just got it too. It's a pretty big accomplishment. It's probably even bigger than getting on the 5,000 list.
I would say it is. I mean, getting on the 5,000 list, I mean, I say this humbly, if you're growing your business, just the math will get you on that list, right?
Yes.
And so with the Inc. 500, I'll be very honest with you, David, I did not expect to get the best place to work, not because I'm very proud of Susco, but what we do is hard because we're still in the consulting space. And I figured the reason we would apply every year for best place to work is the survey is so good. You get a lot of good action items to make your workplace better. I figured we'd eventually get on the list once we had product revenue and we're be able to provide more perks, etc. I did not expect us to get it now. Yeah. So I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah.
Well, that just means that you have a really good workforce and really good employees, because these people go around you. They talk to your employees to find out about you, don't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
And if your leadership's not in line, you don't get this award.
That's true. Yeah.
So congratulations. That's really a huge thing. When did you learn about this?
Well, a couple months ago. I think the embargo ended in June 16th or something. Yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations. That's huge for your company and for you, and it speaks a lot to your leadership. So congratulations. I think that's pretty huge. Like you said, the 5,000 list, you can get on there with the math. This one, you have to be treating people well, and you have to have a pretty well-oiled machine to make sure that you're taking care of those people and giving them what they need so they can do their jobs correctly.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really interesting balance, right? Because we talk about Susco a lot about, I want us to be a compassionate meritocracy so that you have this combination of you're held accountable, you got to get results, but at the same time that we care for each other as teammates. And it's a difficult balance, it's worth it, but it's a very difficult balance to get those two things right at the same time.
Yeah. Sometimes when you hold people accountable, they get very defensive. And I'm sure you've learned how to deal with some of that, because if you're going to do this and have the accountability and results that go along with it, there's going to be some challenging conversations along the way. Go for it. You have something.
And what I've done, that is, if you're not coachable, you cannot work at Susco. Like that's been made very clear. Like that's been made abundantly clear. And I will say this though, I think part of the reason people don't push back on that is that we do, one of the things we do every month is this employee check-in where we ask people, how are things going across these different dimensions? And then we act on it. So we as a company make it very clear that we will change based off of feedback. And so therefore, when we say to people individually, you better change based on feedback, it's part of our social contract that you know what I'm saying? Like we're doing it first. And so I don't think we get a lot of pushback there.
Yeah, and the way you're talking about it, because I you know a little bit about me, but I've been in coaching for 15 years now. I think a lot of companies and a lot of people say that they have this, but they don't really have it, right? Because there's a lot of pain that goes with this, a lot of challenging conversations that you have to have. But after you do that and you're pretty consistent with it for a few years, you start to get the really good people in your company. And it sounds like that's what happened to you, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And then results just start taking off. I mean, and it's a little bit out of your control at that point, is it not?
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's humbling. Yeah, but it is.
Yeah. And then you're sitting here saying to yourself, why was I fighting all of this stuff? Right. I think your hindsight now, it's probably silly to look back and some of the things you were trying to do and how they weren't working. And then when you started doing this work and you started getting centered on who you were, that sort of fixed a lot of other things inside the company, because you started teaching your employees who they are. And then you started holding them accountable to those things. And I just love this story and how it ends up playing out. And how is your company doing now? Are you guys on a rapid growth rate still?
Yeah, we're still, I think we're projected another 30% this year, and we've a lot of that we've got this product that we're launching that is people are very excited about, and so that's going to be interesting. It'll be a whole new revenue stream, and so we're excited about the growth, and it's just we're living in very interesting times, I would say, So
yep. And right now it's getting a little challenging. I mean, as I've been talking to business owners, especially this last month, there seems to be a lot of them talking to me about, hey, things are down a little bit. And so if you have 30% growth, you're doing really well. And I'd say to you, that's probably good growth rate. It's probably on the edge of being a little too fast, but at the same time, it's good growth rate. And why I say too fast is because, sometimes our resources or what we need to do to grow the revenue more gets a little in front of the money that's coming in the door. Right. And so it makes it a little challenging sometimes. Right.
Again. Yeah. No, it's interesting. And I tell you, it's, I want, we made a point earlier about this idea of when you let people go for them to find a better path themselves. I think accepting that really can help, because it's very easy to feel guilty, like especially when you're trying and you're investing in people and you feel like you failed when you can't help somebody grow. But sometimes it's just letting go of that is huge, and I think that letting go of that and kind of just focusing on what is the best path for everyone collectively, so.
And I think you said something. I think you said something really good. Is the person coachable? Because I think when I have to move people along, it's more because they're not coachable and they're not willing to learn. right? Those two things are just not there. And those are the main reasons when we probably turn away from these people, because if they're not willing to do some of this work and move forward, then they're probably not in the right place. And sounds like you really focused in on that.
That's a big part of it. I went through like a lot of limiting beliefs work myself in the past, and I've also discovered a lot of these non-coachable people, if they don't work with limiting beliefs, you'll never help them. Like, and because they need to help themselves. And so, and that's and I think there's a great saying. It's like, if you're trying to help and it's not working, then stop helping. Put your energy somewhere else. And I think that's a big lesson to learn. So.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've been doing coaching for a while now, and every once in a while I get a coaching client that I just can't help, right? Because I can't do the work for them. They have to do the work themselves. But if they're not willing to do it, then there's not a lot I can do. So
yeah.
I think you said it really well. Well, Neel, I really appreciate you being on. And you've talked about a subject that only a few people have talked about since I started this show over a year ago. And so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this with everyone, because I think you're going to help a lot of business owners out there and think about this a little bit differently. So I appreciate you coming on the show.
All right, man. Thanks so much. And remember, I'm the only Neel Sus on the planet. And in case someone wants to link into me and ask a question.
well. Unfortunately, there's a lot of David Chavez's, so I can never say that. But that's pretty cool that you're the only one. So, all right, Neel, well, take care, and I look forward to seeing you at another EO event sometime soon.
You betcha. Appreciate it, David.
All right, take care. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey, everyone. This is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. And I just got done with Neel Sus. And boy, what a great interview. There's only been maybe one other person that has really come and spoke about what Neel talked about today in the way that he talked about it. So here he is in 2011, and he's getting a little stuck in his business. It's not that it's not working. It's just not working as well as he really wanted it to. And he ends up hiring somebody, a more experienced person, to fill in some gaps. And that led him on a bit of a journey of self-realization. And he used the system to really understand what his strengths and weaknesses were. And then he was fascinated to find out how much his strengths contributed to his weaknesses and how they could actually impact what he was doing. So I just love the way he spoke about it and the way he talked about it. And then he took that and he used that to start to work with the people that were there that maybe weren't great fits. He tried to coach them. They were uncoachable. And how he determined they were uncoachable, because if you're not willing to admit some of the things that you're not good at to yourself, then I can't help you or work with you, because if you're not willing to do that, then it's almost impossible to teach you anything. And there are people out there that are stuck and unteachable. And so he started to move on from these people. And when he started to move on from these people, Neel didn't have to be involved in doing every little thing in his company. And it probably freed him up. He's up to 40 people now, where he was at 9 to 12 for quite a while. Once he got past this, then he started really growing his company to the next level. And I think that a lot of business owners have to go through this when they're scaling, because they have to make sure that they understand what makes them tick, and then what do they need in their company to make their company do what it's supposed to be doing. And it was just really fascinating how he revamped his hiring technique to really make sure that he was hiring the best person he could. And he said that he got it down to 1 in 4, from 1 to 4 success rate in hiring, to 3 to 4. Well, let me just tell you, that's 3 times better. And I would tell you, like, when business owners are growing businesses, we spread our resources too thin. And if we're spreading our resources too thin, what ends up happening is we don't have the cash we need to get to the next stage. And it sounds like and in the hiring process alone, think of how much money gets wasted in Top Grading, written by Brad Smart, and then Who, written by his son. 15 times the salary is the estimate that it causes you to have a bad employee. So think of the money and resources that's sucking up of his, that he doesn't have access to grow his company to the next level. Once he started fixing some of these problems, and again, to go from a 1 in 4 success rate with employees to a 3 in 4 success rate with new employees, is a huge cost savings for him. What does he do with that money? He's able to put it to use into other resources in the company so he can really scale his company. And now he's up to 40. And this is just in a few short years, because this happened back in 2016. He started to have this change, and it probably took him a couple of years to do it. Here we are probably about 7 years later, and he's grown his company from 12 to 40. And now he's on probably a pretty fast run rate. So just very excited for him, and very grateful that he shared this mistake with us, because his mistake was really not thinking about his business the way he needed to, and not holding people accountable to the results he was really looking for, because he was too compassionate, and then getting frustrated with people because he's very intelligent and he can see the end very quickly, where a lot of people have to ask a lot of questions to see that end. So I loved how he talked about it and shared his experience with us. But let's talk about Assured Strategy just a little bit, because I'd like to get a few things in here about what we're doing. So as I shared with you a little earlier, on July 18th, Warren Sager is doing a segment on performance coaching and what is performance coaching. And he's going to actually teach you how to do this performance coaching inside of your company. So this sort of fits in with what Neel was just talking about just a few moments ago, because you have to have better performing employees. If you hold them accountable and they perform better, you'll get better results from them. Then Ted Servata and I, on July 30th, we are going to go into the basics of financial forecasting, teaching you how to set it up and how to start doing forecasting. We'll be teaching you on a really simple model so you can get your arms around it and understand what we're doing. But very powerful workshop, because, or not workshop, webinar, because people often have a budget that they're sticking to when things are changing. Like right now, I've been talking to a lot of business owners, and they're talking to me about how the economy is really starting to go down and how they can sort of feel it. And it's happening because they're not getting contracts signed. That's what they're talking to me about. And we have these stale budgets that we maybe did last November or maybe October, and we cleaned them up a little bit in December and January, and then are been using them. Well, if they're stagnant and you think you have this growth rate that you're not attaining, then you have to go back and make some adjustments. And forecasting really helps you do that, because what we teach is to have a 36-month forecast, and I'm always updating that last month every month. So I'm keeping a running 36, but I'm also using the Agile system. As I learn more about what's going on, I'm adjusting some of the numbers that we're dealing with today. So maybe adjusting some of the cost I'm going to incur because the revenue is not coming in as fast as we need to. Then next one is scaling up cash reserves, and this is going to be done by Preston. Preston is one of those people that does our processes in our company, and he's going to show how much cash is wasted in processes, and then teach you some things you could do to improve your cash flow through those processes. So very powerful webinar on August the 8th. And then my partner, Kane Peklovic, is going to be doing the psychology of accountability and SMART goals, sort of what Neel was also talking about. So a lot of these things we're going to be working with. But our next Scaling Up workshop is in Denver. So come over to Denver. September's a great time of year to be there. The fall is starting to happen. And if you get on our website, assuredstrategy.com/events, you'll find all these things there. And we look forward to having you. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. And we thank Neel Sus for coming on today and sharing his wisdom. Very fascinating guy. I've gotten a chance to talk to him for quite a while. And he's just super energetic. And I'm really excited to see what will happen to his business over the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next Monday at the same time. Take care.